Hello, my name is John Nelson. I am the Executive Director of the Vermont School Boards Association. In the next few minutes, I will describe the impact on local school districts of three pieces of legislation enacted during the 2010 session of the Vermont General Assembly. First, I will discuss Act 153, the law that establishes incentives to encourage voluntary school district mergers. Second, we will look at revised statutory duties for all supervisory unions beginning in 2012. And finally, we will examine public education's voluntary spending reduction targets for fiscal year 2012, which were enacted as part of the state's Challenges for Change process. So let's begin. Act 153, also known as H66, is intended to encourage voluntary school district mergers that are approved locally and designed to improve student educational opportunities and bring about cost efficiencies. It might be useful to begin at the beginning to talk about the legislative assumptions behind Act 153. In its preface to the law, the legislature included a statement of findings, which is a way that legislatures can say what they believe to be true, and therefore is the basis for the legislation that follows. The findings of Act 153 state that merged districts will increase educational opportunities for students in areas including technology, will increase economies of scale, and will allow efficient personnel management while preserving local authority in school governance. The findings also assume that voluntary mergers will ease the difficulties we experience in Vermont when attempting to compare programs and costs among districts, while we continue to allow communities to determine where their children will attend school, including the option of retaining school choice. The merged districts created under Act 153 will be known as Regional Education Districts, or REDs for short. Essentially, a RED is a unified union school district that furnishes education for children in kindergarten through 12th grade and is governed by a single school board with a single budget. Pre-kindergarten services would be optional for REDs, as they are optional now for school districts. If districts merge into a RED according to certain conditions, the newly formed district will be eligible for a package of temporary incentives. In order to qualify for incentives, the RED must include at least 4 merging districts or 1,250 students or both. The RED must operate 1 or more schools for at least kindergarten through 6th grade. For children in 7th through 12th grade, the RED may operate 1 or more schools, or it may designate a public or an independent school as its high school, or it may pay tuition for students to attend a school of their parents' choosing. The RED may choose different options at different grade levels. For example, the RED may operate a school for 7th and 8th grade and pay tuition for grades 9 through 12. However, at each grade level, all school children in the RED must have the same enrollment options. In other words, 9th grade students in one merging district could not be required to attend a given high school if 9th graders in another district within the RED could attend any school of their choosing. The merger plan submitted to the voters for approval must describe how the merged district is expected to improve cost efficiencies and educational outcomes. There is one exception to the requirement that a RED operate an elementary school. A district that tuitions all of its kindergarten through 12th grade students is known as a non-operating district. 4 or more non-operating districts may merge to form a RED. If they do so, the RED will continue to pay tuition for all grades and will qualify for the incentives as a non-operating RED. If districts that wish to merge into a RED do not meet the 4-district or 1,250 student requirement, they may apply to the State Board of Education for a waiver. The waiver request must show that the size requirement, if applied to those districts, would not be cost-effective or would be harmful to educational opportunities or achievement. Reds that meet these criteria will be eligible for the Act 153 incentives. The Reds' equalized homestead tax rate will be reduced during the first 4 years of operation. The reduction will be 8 cents in the first year, then 6 cents in the second, then 4 cents, then 2 cents in the fourth year. However, no merging district's equalized tax rate will be allowed to increase or decrease more than 5% per year during those first 4 years. Taxpayers who pay school taxes based on income would also see a reduction in their school tax bill in equal proportion to the reductions in the tax rate. No school in the red could be closed during the first 4 years of the Red's operation unless the voters in the effective town approve the closure. Although the law is not entirely clear on this point, we believe the merger agreement also could include a provision that would extend the 4-year protection on school closure to any agreed time frame, such as 8 or 10 years. Merger planning committees will be eligible for up to $20,000 in reimbursement for legal and consulting fees, even if the merger study does not result in an approved merger. For the first 5 years of operation, the Red will be eligible to receive the small schools grants that its merged districts had received prior to merger. This chart shows an example of how tax rates might unify during the transition period. Each of the colored lines represents a hypothetical merging district, each with a different tax rate prior to merger. The thicker black line represents a Red's tax rate, including the incentive. Some districts, such as Elm, would join the Red's tax rate in the first year. Other districts, like Walnut and Cherry, would take several years to join the Red's tax rate because of the 5% annual cap on equalized tax rate changes. An equalized tax rate is the rate prior to being adjusted by the Common Level of Appraisal, or CLA. Before and after merger, each municipality would retain its own CLA, which will adjust the unified tax rate to reflect property values in each municipality. This is current practice in all union school districts. Other incentives for Reds include the option to engage in multi-year budgeting, both during and after the transition period, subject to voter approval. If a Red sells a school building, it will not be required to refund the state for a portion of the construction aid a member district received when the building was first constructed. For the Red to form, voters will have to approve the merger plan in each district that the Merger Planning Committee designates as necessary for the Red's formation. A Red merger will utilize essentially the same process that occurs for any union school district formation. Union formation is a multi-step process detailed in Title 16, Section 706B of Vermont law. A planning committee comprising representatives of the districts considering merger determines which districts are necessary to a successful union and which districts are advisable but not essential to the merger. The committee determines which grade levels and schools the Red would operate, and it prepares a plan for the provision of transportation, staff deployment, and curriculum. The planning committee must also determine how the Red would assume indebtedness and ownership of property of its member districts. It also determines the composition of the Red school board. Union school boards may have up to 18 members, and each member district is given a specific number of board members based on its population, with a minimum of 1 from each member district. Alternatively, each member district could have a specified number of representatives whose votes would be weighted to represent member district population, or all board members could be elected at large. One important issue that the Planning Committee report must resolve and present to the voters for approval is a defined process that will be used to ensure local participation in the Red's policy and budget development. The Planning Committee also determines other matters pertinent to the Union District's formation and the first year of its operation. All supervisory union boards must discuss whether to explore a merger in their SU or with districts outside their SU by December 1st of this year. District boards may hold the same discussions, but are not required to do so. The VSBA is developing resource materials to help define and add structure to these discussions. By October 1st, 2012, each supervisory union board must vote whether to form a study committee to prepare a merger proposal. The incentives for merger will only be available to REDs that begin operating by the 2017-2018 school year. In addition to the special incentives for RED merger described previously, any district merger is eligible for a transition aid incentive from the state of no more than $150,000 less expenses reimbursed during the merger planning process. Act 153 asks a regional federally funded research lab to study the effects if Vermont made tuition vouchers available to all school-age children statewide. Parts 2 and 3 of this presentation are applicable to all school districts and supervisory unions in Vermont, not only those that pursue a school district merger.